Role-playing games are very popular in Japan. So when Sony Corporation planned to introduce its PlayStation console, they decided to offer a spectacular RPG to show off the new platform's capabilities. That was the beginning of the saga that is Ark the Lad. The Ark the Lad series was produced in Japan by Sony's Ark Entertainment subsidiary. I personally think that the base of RPG game elements are story, characters, and how well they are crafted and how interesting they are. So we need to make sure that those things are done right. Otherwise, even if the hardware improves, the game itself might not improve drastically.
Nakagawa-san is the producer.
This is a long story written in 3 parts. All 3 series have different main characters. Each main character has their own unique personality. The story is kind of dark. However, each of these main characters opposes the bad forces. I found it interesting the way the main characters fight against the evil forces. The way they fight and stand up for justice, even when these characters were in desperate circumstances. The Ark the Lad series was produced in Japan by Sony's Ark Entertainment subsidiary. This is a long story written in 3 parts. All 3 series have different main characters. Each main character has their own unique personality. The story is kind of dark. However, each of these main characters opposes the bad forces. I found it interesting the way the main characters fight against the evil forces. The way they fight and stand up for justice, even when these characters were in desperate.
With this game, you really get involved with all the characters. There are so many characters.
From the beginning, Nakagawa-san's idea, the producer's idea, was to do cutting-edge RPG, to show off cutting-edge technology. And at the time Ark 1 came out, CG was just getting started. Then Ark 2 really takes CG and runs with it, and you can see, how they're starting to model. It was pretty spectacular for the time. And then Ark 3 comes along, and that's another 2 years later, and you can see the evolution of the graphics as well there, where the 3D CG is just really, really great.
In Ark 1 and 2, they primarily used CG for, the flying ships and stuff like that, but the characters were never done in 3D. But in Ark 3, they incorporated more of the 3D character design.
iDesign is the company that was doing the animation for Ark 3, and they were heavily involved with making 3D environments and 3D animations that were believable for the game.
At the time of the release of Ark number 2, character animations were possible, but there were a number of restrictions. For example, from the point of view involving hardware, we couldn't do the characters. But with Ark the Lad number 3, there was an abundance of software applications available, and there were some new software programs that were suitable for character-type animations. At the beginning, we didn't think about putting the characters in the CG movie segments. We created one as an experiment, and it was received so well that we decided to follow this course of inserting these characters into the movie segments. Of course, we first decide where the movie inserts will be placed, and then we create the storyboard, and then each designer starts the modeling of each character. At first, we usually have either some sort of a design sketch or a higher quality illustration of the subject. So basically, we have this basis for our layout. Then we have a meeting with our clients concerning what kind of image they want to convey. And then we create the images for the screen one at a time. This process is the same with any 3D CG process, and not just limited to game applications. In animation, the most difficult part is illustrating the movement of the hair or clothing items like a cape, that is, any soft object. We tried a variety of different tools, such as a cloth simulator that comes with certain 3D applications, but we found them to be unsatisfactory. So what we did at the end was to use a skeleton bone structure and move it by hand. We created an ocean scene by using the digital nature tool, and we also used the digital nature tool for the clouds, but it was difficult to achieve the effect. It was very difficult. For Arc the Lad 2, the part that was difficult was that there were many scenes where buildings collapsed. When we use CG, when we illustrate a standing building alone, that is easy. However, if we have to construct a scene with the building crumbling, we have to piece together each of the pieces of the building that break separately. So that was a very difficult process and required a lot of patience. There are 3 people who concentrated on character making. 4 people worked mainly on backgrounds, and the remaining people worked on scene structure and camera operation. We have at least one staff member who draws 2D pictures using software such as Photoshop for the purpose of making texture maps to paste onto the 3D models. And while this staff person works on this aspect of the job, other staff members work on the modeling with 3D computer graphics software. They then make the basic shape that will be utilized to paste the pictures onto. Once we have made the 3D model, then the animation aspect of the job becomes very easy. Moreover, it possesses this realistic sense to it, so it is much preferred, and the end result is fantastic. For Arc the Lad 3, we spent about 4 months total working on it. The number of machines that we had at that time limited us somewhat because we did not have that many. But we utilized these machines 24 hours per day, every day. As for our staff, due to the importance of this job, there were many times when every member of our staff stayed at the office day and night. So in that manner, we worked continuously, and it took us about 4 months. Akio Yoshioka takes over where the animators leave off, assembling characters, backgrounds, and CG elements, adding special effects, and tweaking the results to achieve the final look. In order to express the subtle nuances and to capture the softer side of expressions, we have to use filters, and in that process we need composites and editing. I create a product by putting together a composite of the various materials provided by each designer. I'm the one who created the storyboard to start with, and I will connect each cut based on the theme of the storyboard. This is just the ideal job for me. Although I sometimes don't get that much sleep or have a lot of time to eat, overall, I feel this is a fantastic job to have. Sound effects and music add excitement to the formerly silent movies. When I do my work, there are no sounds involved. I think that I had to anticipate how the product would appear once sound was added. And then later, when I had an opportunity to look at the finished product and compare them to the soundless segments, these segments seemed just so much improved and wonderful.
Ando-san is the musician, composer, and with Akagawa-san, that's how the first game came to be a landmark in music, because it had the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, had a live orchestra doing the sound, and that was unheard of at the time.
So until that time, when people spoke of using an orchestra for a game, it was for the associated records, but it was never in the game. It was just kept for the record only. So we came up with the idea to use the orchestra for parts of the game itself. Of course, we were worried it might cost a lot of money, so I went to my boss to discuss the situation. And he responded by saying that even if it costs a lot of money, let's go ahead and do it. Therefore, we went to London to work on this.
I believe I took on Ark Collection because I had a temporary bout of insanity.
Working Designs had approached Sony about producing a US version of Ark 1 soon after the game was released in Japan. They asked again after the debut of Ark 2. And when Ark 3 was released, they came up with a bold idea.
We approached it as doing all 3 games together in one exclusive box set. And when we approached it that way with Sony of Japan, they were interested in talking to us and licensing the game to us.
To kick off the project, 2 Working Designs programmers traveled to Tokyo in December of 1999 to meet with their counterparts at Ark Entertainment.
Yeah, in Japan, they had their computers with little toys and stuff set around them just like I do. It's like, I thought that was kind of neat. And then we looked around a bit, mostly in Laserdisc shops. So that's what the other programmer liked. We went to Akihabara and walked around. Oh, the subway was really cool. Really hard to figure out your way around though. They had like a whole bunch of maps with lots of lines. Really confusing. And it was so easy to spend money there because it was all coins. So it doesn't feel like you're spending a lot, but then it's like, oh, $50 just went by.
Localizing all 4 games turned out to be an enormous and time-consuming project.
It didn't seem especially daunting until we started getting the code and the text and seeing how large of a project we'd really signed up for. Localizing the game is sort of the standard procedure that we have, but just on a much larger scale, which is you have your regular translation, which is Japanese to English, and you take that, isolate the main story points, and rewrite the game in English using the storyline so that it reads conversationally. We try to keep all the games we release as up-to-date as possible as far as making use of the latest things that are offered for the platform that are in wide use. So we added analog, we added DualShock, we added the extra memory card slot so you could save more on one card. The Japanese standard, or sort of the standard in game role-playing, is 3 saves per card. Well, much more than that'll fit on most memory cards. So we generally try to put as many as you can possibly put on a card. So we increased Ark 1 to 15 saves per card. Ark 2 went from 3 to 7. Ark 3 went up to 15 saves.
Oh, the interfaces for all 3 games were slightly different. We tried to unify most of them so that when you go from game to game, you don't really have to read it as much as just feel it. That's one of the things I hate about most games, trying to find my way around menus.
The translucency was added to the boxes, so if you can see the battlefield below your screen, see what's going on, whereas before the boxes came up and you couldn't see what was underneath them anymore. You had to like cancel out so you could see what you're doing and then go back in if you forgot.
In Ark 1, the movies were done in 16-bit color, but they were originally produced at 24-bit, but they were being played back at 16-bit. So
we get a lot of artwork. Blah.
yeah, they're much fluid. They have a good fluid movement. Blah blah blah.
That sounds silly.
Again.
Victor's a lot of fun to work with. He knows just how to joke around. Be a total goof off.
I just realized I didn't brush my teeth after lunch.
I don't know.
You know what? I have to burp.
Ah!
Well, I am Batman.
Spoiler. There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, wait.
No.
すいません。We get a lot of artwork.